When I was going to be a chef, I wasn't going to university, and my principal didn't like that. She absolutely hated it, and she said, "Why are you become a chef? Yeah, you should go to university and do that." And I finished year 12 not applying for a TER, that's what it was called back then, tertiary entrance ranking. And I said to her, "I'm going to prove you wrong." I just finished my apprenticeship, and I had what's called RSI, repetitive strain injury, where my hand clamped around my knife, and the doctor had to surgically try and maneuver the knife out of my hand, and my hand wasn't as strong anymore. Things were changing within the organisation, and George Weston actually formed a division called Food Service, and it was bringing every part of their business. The new role was going to be corporate chef, and I took corporate chef, come back to Sydney, and I was now corporate chef of multiple different products and brands, and that pastry background being in tip-top with bread, the charcuterie, the butchery, meat knowledge.
It's all wrapped up.
All wrapped up. I am emotional at the moment because I've had so many great mentors that help inspire me along the way. And yeah, I come from tragedy when I was young, and I ran from a lot of things too. And running from things like doing charity and doing all these other things, and why did I keep so busy, and why did I work a full-time job while I was at school, and why did I go and keep studying? Because I think I've always had it in me that I've been that person. And made a lot of mistakes. But I'm not disappointed by them. Ask questions. Find a mentor. Find someone that's just as passionate, or someone that's got skill sets that you don't have or you aspire to have, and talk to them. Ask questions. Don't be afraid of asking questions. One of the other things is network as much as you can, because you never know where they lead, where those contacts go. And networking is introducing yourself and saying, "Hi, this is who I aspire to be." Also walking away going, "Oh, wow, I should have asked him that." Go and ask him that question.
Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel and another episode from Passion to Profession Chef's Edition. Today we have a legend with us. He is a certified global executive chef, award-winning innovator, TV representative, latest author, and even a member of FSAA Hall of Fame alumni. His journey has taken him from hotel kitchens to boardrooms of global food giants. And today we'll hear his stories, insights, and learnings through the years. Let's welcome Chef Adam.
Thank you. It's so weird to hear my bio read back to me.
Yeah. Have I missed anything?
No, I'm sure there's so many things. I forget what I do, so it's great.
We'll know about it in this podcast.
It's so great to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's start from the beginning.
Okay.
Beginning.
In the beginning.
Yeah.
Okay. I go back a little bit longer than in the beginning.
What got you into cooking?
Yeah, good question. I still have to figure that one out. I think pretty much when I was 13, I knew that I wanted to do one of three careers. And those three careers are quite funny because I pretty much do them all together now. And it's a bit weird saying that. I always wanted to be a chef. I love food since a young kid. It was just something that I really enjoyed. Teacher, I really loved the thought of teachers, and I had lots of teacher mentors and inspired by so many. So I was also leaning to education. And the other one I did was acting, a lot of theatre. I used to do musicals and sing and all that sort of stuff. And I really loved that dramatic world, which is funny because, now when I look at my career 32 years later, I am a chef that educates and teaches and mentors so many young people and business leaders. And then I've been on TV and doing that sort of thing. And public speaking. So I'm really in that acting sort of space. Yeah. So it's really interesting. I knew at the age of 13. And the reason why I probably went down that pathway, at the age of 13, I had a bit of trauma in my life, which really affected my pathway. And from that age, I just put my head down and changed direction. So from a very young age, I also did a lot of charity work. I started my own soup kitchen. Was, doing cake stores and all the fun stuff from the age of 13, which led into something very different for me, because charity is something that's a big part of my life today. It's a very personal part of my life. And what was amazing about that, at 18, I got the Order of Australia, one of the youngest Order of Australias in the world, which is a really interesting, unique part. Order of Australia, for those that don't know, is essentially for someone that's done lifelong commitment to their field of career, to charity, or just doing something that's really impactful for the industry, not the industry, for the community. And I got that when I was 18. So, and young chef that went into learning food, I learned from an early age. I was really passionate about cooking. I almost didn't become a chef though. I had a bit of a mishap in life where I was so excited. I learnt this recipe at school, and this recipe is interesting because it's haunted me ever since. I learned how to make apricot chicken. Now, it's it's a weird dish when you think about it. It's chicken in apricots. It's really kind of like a South African style dish, but very popular dish. And I was lucky that I learned how to do it. And I was working at the time, and I must have been about 14 or 15. And I went and bought all the ingredients, and I cooked it for my family. And my mother and father and my brother at the time, my sister was too young, ordered pizza and didn't eat it because they said it was too foreign. I find that funny now, because everywhere I've been, versions of apricot chicken have entered my life, whether it been in product development or anything like that. But that dish almost broke me. So I never almost become a chef because of that one reason. Yeah. Thanks, mum, dad, my brother, my family, really. But I still prevailed, and here I am today talking to you.
Sorry,
No.
Do you remember your first job? I mean, what kind of atmosphere was it back then?
My first job, so this is before cooking. My very first job was my worst job I've ever done in my life, and I never want to do it. So it's always reminded me not to do it. I used to clean pigeon cages. So pigeons, there was a guy down the road that used to have multiple pigeons racing and all that. And it's quite funny because I used to clean pigeon crap. And that was my very first job. And that was when I was 14. And in the same week, I would also take orders at Housey or Bingo off the old people that were playing bingo, and go and get to the kitchen and bring them the food. Two of the worst jobs you could ever do. From there, when I was 14, 9 months, I went to Woolworths and worked at Woolworths Variety, which is kind of like an old version of a Big W class supermarket. And worked at Woolworths up until the time of my apprenticeship as a chef. So I started work young, and I haven't stopped since. So, I had some bad jobs along the way, but yeah.
How was the experience as an apprentice back then, and who helped you got the foot in the door?
Yeah, so when I was at school, I was trying to leave in year 10, but I didn't. I ended up staying to year 12, and I'm actually really glad I did, because one, you realize the people that you make in your life are so important to you. And I had some amazing people back in my life, in mentors even as younger then, and teachers, as I keep mentioning. Teachers have been a very inspirational part of my life. And back then at school, I had some great teachers that supported me. And I was just recently, this year, I went to the funeral of my old school principal. And it's a sad thing, but it's also a bit of a joyous thing for me, and not about this person. Because when I was going to be a chef, I wasn't going to university, and my principal didn't like that. She absolutely hated it. And she said, "Why are you becoming a chef? You should go to university and do that." And I finished year 12, not applying for a TER. That's what it was called back then, tertiary entrance ranking. And I said to her, "I'm going to prove you wrong." And I got an apprenticeship. I actually went down, I sent out about, I think it was 380 applications out to be an apprentice chef.
380?
I was a boy from the western suburbs in Penrith, and I used to get some random questions. Do you have running water and electricity in Penrith, and all that fun stuff? And because Penrith and the city was such a world apart, and here's this young boy applying for jobs. And in the end, I ended up getting down to 2 jobs, and one was for Qantas, and one was for Accor Hotels.
When you were 14?
No, wasn't 14. So this is year 12.
Okay.
I applied
Yeah.
during my school, and I was still working. I was working full time, but when I was at Woolworths, I was also a store manager. So a young guy doing all this charity work, all this sort of fun stuff that every teenage boy did at the time. Not. But what was interesting is I landed 2 jobs, and I said I had to make a decision between one. So I took Accor Hotels, and what a platform for my career, because I did 4-year apprenticeship at the Novotel Darling Harbour, which was the very first Accor hotel to ever come to Australia. And that was that orange building that's in Darling Harbour. It's quite prominent. It looks like a pyramid. It was the very first hotel, and it was just after pre-opening. And I was very lucky to have one of the best mentors in my life, who is still around today, and an amazing man, Reinhard Reutner. He was the executive chef back then. He was the exec chef of the Southern Cross Hotel. He did Elton John's wedding, all those sort of fabulous things. And Reinhard was a very passionate Austrian, probably the hardest man I've ever worked under, but probably the best career that I could ever have. And in those 4 years of my apprenticeship, in Accor, it was probably one of the best experiences around the world, because Reinhard had so many friends. I met people like Neil Perry and Serge Doncereau of the days, and these were my idols. And Tetsuya had just opened up in Roselle. Tetsuya's only just gone into retirement just recently. It's so amazing that I grew up with all these great people. Back then, the kitchen brigade was very different. We had a team of 60 chefs back then. Hotels were the place to go. There, you go for a buffet, and you would dine at hotels, and it was so amazing. 4 years. Reinhard was a phenomenal leader, and I still remember everything. He gave me a book called Le Russe Gastronomique, and that book is very important to me, because that changed who I am today and what I do, and kind of my legacy in a lot of things about my love of books. Le Russe Gastronomique, he used to get all his apprentices to read 5 pages from it. It's a massive Le Russe means encyclopedia, and gastronomic is cooking.
Yeah.
So it's all about food, and it's essentially the Bible of food. And he would say, read pages for this page and this page and this page, and then Monday I'm going to test you, and you either had to cook the dish or had to repeat the recipe that he would ask you to do. So you go, okay, tell me what Chateaubriand is, and you would either have to go and cook it or tell him how to make it. And, by the end of my 4 years of my apprenticeship, that book was my Bible. It was my go-to. And, even at TAFE, when I was studying cookery, knowing some of these and being the student in front of everyone, I think Reinhard had that expectation, because all the TAFE teachers knew my chef as well. And they would go, Adam, you should know this. And you would have to virtually go into class and know about the lesson before the teacher taught you, which I find funny. What an amazing journey. And, one of the other things he did, and my mum still goes off at me today going, why did you go on your day off every Wednesday? Every Wednesday was my day off, because I had TAFE and all that. And I would come in on the night rider bus, which was before trains were really running. And it was 4 o'clock in the morning from Penrith. I'd get up, I would go to the fish markets. I would go to the fish markets at 5:30 in the morning. And Reinhard would give me a list. We used to spend between $100,000 to $200,000 of fish a week, because the buffet was massive. It was, you do 1,000 people in a night, and we buy prawns and oysters and the big fish and all the fun stuff. And chef would always make me write down the prices. And I'll write down the prices and then go and compare. And then we would go to our fishmonger, and we sit down and talk about notes and say to him, okay, this is the price. And he'll go, Adam, what was the price of prawns did you see on the market? And we used to trade and barter. And I learnt that skill as well. But at the same time, while I was doing that, I was learning other things too, how they negotiated, how they worked together, how much we were buying. So it helped me in my career later on. And then at 9 o'clock, we had coffee, my very first world of coffee, but it wasn't the coffee that you know today. It was Turkish coffee, which is very bitter. Yeah. It's almost like sump oil. And I got to learn that because the Greek Austrians, they would love it, and they drink this Turkish coffee. And then from 9 o'clock or 9:30 to 12 o'clock, I would go into the filleting room and learn how to fillet fish. And I did this on my day off for nearly every day for 4 years. Now I love fish cookery. I'm amazed that it's so, such a wonderful career. But, even though I'm not doing it every day, I still remember every single thing.
Yeah.
Scent. And it was funny, many years later, my very first TV show was at the fish markets in Sydney. And now to see the fish markets come full circle next year, opening up to one of the best assets Sydney is ever going to have besides the Opera House. It feels, I was invited back just recently to go to the fish markets, have a look at the new site before it officially opened.
Yeah.
And it just felt like my career come full circle, 32 years. And just that memory of what I did at the markets, 4 years of apprenticeship, great, a core, amazing things. We did everything like Escoffier dinners and had all these people come in, apprentice dinners, entered so many competitions. I've got over 60 medals in my lifetime back then, doing competition after competition.
In that 4 years?
In that 4 years.
And how did that young boy from Penrith find all of this city life? Again, because you mentioned that everything was Penrith and city were like
Penrith and city. It was two different things. Coming up in Penrith, there wasn't that many great restaurants back then. Going to the city and catching a train in, you would go early. You go to the David Jones Food Hall, and I would buy, spend money. And one of my very first purchases back then as an apprentice too, I was earning $2.80 an hour. Just to give you the scale of 32 years ago, the apprenticeship was probably the lowest form of job you could ever just. $2.80 an hour. I only got paid for 40 hours a week on average, but you would work 80 hours. But the $2.80 was so if you technically split that over 80 hours, it's not a lot of money, but it was about passion.
Yeah.
So you would buy things. So my very first thing was a copper pan, which I love copper. I still have it today. I still have it in my toolkit today. I spent a whole month's worth of salary virtually on a copper pan. It was amazing. I still remember paying a week's worth of wages on buying lamb rump for the very first time to cook that up. Just experimenting and learning, and then going to markets and just learning about this wonderful world. And we talked about 60 chefs in that time. We had different sections. You had entremetier, you had cold larder, you had butchery, we had pastry. We had all the different departments. So what an apprenticeship. I'm growing up in the schoolyard of one of the best chefs in the country and learning, butchery and learning pastry and learning all these skills and writing down these things. I've still got my recipe books from writing all my little notes down every time I was cooking a new recipe or trying things. And it was the best environment for a young boy that had so much passion. That's still me today. Looking at the city, loving the city, going to exploring, I still remember I won a competition and Reinhard took some of the apprentices out and we went to Bistro Moncur. And what an amazing institution that's still in Sydney today. But I still remember eating steak frites with Parisian butter and just French fries. It was just an amazing experience. And this was one of the most fanciest restaurants I've been to. I've been to lots since then. But when I was a young kid, it was a big difference. So I had a great leader, Reinhard, who lives in Singapore now, an amazing mentor that not only took the time, but the brigade of chefs that we had, people that essentially my brothers and sisters today, phenomenal industry leaders. And to have that background, to have that schoolyard to play in. And, if I wanted truffle, Reinhard got truffle and I experienced what truffle tasted like. And it's interesting. I think those 4 years were the most important because I learned about flavor, I learned about technique, I learned about cooking skill, and really set myself up where I was going to in my career later on.
Yeah. And so you proved your principle wrong, clearly.
Yes, passionate boy from Penrith that loved life.
Yeah. So that was like a school to you. That was like a university to you, the first apprenticeship that you got.
Yep.
What was next?
What was next? Interesting. I just completed my apprenticeship. Reinhard did a lot for us. You do your stages. So I went overseas, did stages. You do the Europe trip. You do all the fun stuff. Reinhard got me into a program with native Indigenous Australians, the Aboriginals. And I lived for 2 weeks in about 200 k's out of Broome in WA. and learn about Indigenous culture and Indigenous food, and hunted my own food, and amazing. And that also spurred a lot of different things. So I had all these different experiences working in some of the best restaurants in the world, going to Paul Bacuse's restaurant, which was one of my heroes, and getting to meet him, which I've got a signed menu still today. But where did I go? The world of food had changed. Hotels were no longer the favorite. There was all these amazing restaurants like Bank coming out, where Colin Fasnage and Justin North were starting at. You had all these restaurants changing, and food was changing very rapidly, because the Commissary Kitchen, which is where the Old Star Casino started, was producing mashed potato in a bag. And I've been learnt 4 years of a trade about making things from scratch. Where's this gone? And so I had to make some changes. And also at the same time, I just finished my apprenticeship, and I had what's called RSI, repetitive strain injury, where my hand clamped around my knife, and the doctor had to surgically try and maneuver the knife out of my hand, and my hand wasn't as strong anymore. And so Reinhard actually did one of the best things he could ever do outside of my apprenticeship. He actually introduced me into a front of house traineeship, where I went on to do hotel management and stayed with the Corps a couple of years later. And it wasn't back until 2000, the Olympic Games that every chef talks about, that I was brought back to cooking. So I went and did management, learned front of house, did housekeeping, become an assistant manager, worked through the Accor chain. And, it was good because I got to learn my management skills.
Of course, yeah.
With the knowledge of food and my passion for the industry. So it was quite good to have those together.
Your injury actually helped you learn all of that.
Yes,
so that's
correct.
A good thing. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So as we are talking about your journey from apprenticeship, then learning about the front of house.
Yes.
And then you were an executive chef at a point of your
career.
So
I went back
journey?
to cooking and worked through, commis chef and all the fun stuff, and sous chef and then exec chef. Look, it's been an amazing journey, and obviously, some of that time I've I did so much in that time, I've forgotten about it. But what's amazing is while I was also at school, I also wanted to study more too. So after my apprenticeship, did my Cert 3, did my Cert 4 commercial cookery. I did my qualifications in pastry, qualifications in butchery. I then went on to do charcuterie, which was phenomenal. That's making small goods and bacon and all the fun stuff. I kept learning. So I didn't just stop. Even though I was still working, I was doing all this other stuff in the background and going to TAFE, learning different things. Why did I learn butchery? Because I wanted to know more about the meats. And why did I learn charcuterie? Because then you could ferment things and do all this fun stuff. Now that is interesting to know, because that changed the pivot of my career, because I pretty much went into food production or innovation by doing that pivot. I've owned restaurants. I had 3 restaurants. I've jumped around doing different things, but still all related to food. But that passion of going into something where my very first job outside of the kitchen was Mars, and working as a sales / chef, probably was the worst salesperson ever. And learned a lot of my lessons in life, and pretty amazing to go there. After I left that, went into restaurants, started looking at restaurants and really getting to having that management skill, using all my different knowledge of
front of house as well.
Front of house.
Yeah.
And people will laugh about this, but the restaurants I went into was Black Stump. Black Stump was a major steak chain that had been around for over 30 years. It's old-fashioned now. It doesn't exist anymore. But, I learned a lot. It wasn't fine dining. And my whole career was fine dining and all that sort of stuff. This was very different.
You mentioned that it was just hotels at the start.
Yep.
And then the era of restaurants began. So you lived through that.
I went through that. I had the fun stuff. Restaurants. But it wasn't really where I wanted to be.
Yeah.
And I just completed my charcuterie diploma in TAFE, and I want to do something in this.
Yeah.
And so after leaving restaurants, I went into a company called, back then it was KR Castlemaine, which was a small goods company, because I had this small goods knowledge and I was chef, but I stupidly went back into a sales role again, not learning from my mistakes from Mars. But what a fabulous company I worked for at Mars, because I did everything wrong there. But when I come into KR Castlemaine, it was phenomenal because all those mistakes I made before. Because when I was in Mars, I was trying to be the best salesperson possible and read every sales book in the world, and it was like, nah, that doesn't work. And I was terrible. But when I went in, restaurants kind of shaped me to change that. And so when I went into sales second time, charcuterie, making bacon, making prosciutto, making all the fun stuff, but at the same time getting to sell, I actually become a very proficient salesperson. I was actually very good at it. And in that time, Don Smallgoods bought KR Castlemaine. And that was interesting because Don Smallgoods was owned by George Weston Foods, which was owned by Associated British Foods. And we'll cover that now. Don Smallgoods bought, and unfortunately my role wasn't around anymore. So they gave me a list of roles, and then they realised there was a role down in Melbourne. So I relocated down to Melbourne, and this was a role in QSR and quick serve restaurants and working with the sales team. But they saw that because I had a chef background and I had this knowledge of small goods, my boss back then, Matt Jackson, a lovely guy, still around the industry today, he allowed me to work in the factory at Don down in Altona. And I had the biggest playground ever because I had a whole factory to my beck and call, working with the R&D team, working with the quality team, working with sales team, going to customers like McDonald's, going to Red Rooster, going to all the big guys and designing products and, working on shelf life for bacon, making it longer and things like that. And it was really a great learning platform. I made some amazing friends in that world, but it didn't stop my career because things were changing within the organisation, and George Weston actually formed a division called Food Service, and it was bringing every part of their business. Now, George Weston had Tip Top, Don Smallgoods, J-Sol Chemicals, not Allied Mills, sorry. They had, I've forgotten what the flour company, they had flour, they had all these different, Western Flour, sorry, and they had cake mixes and all the fun stuff. So they formed a new division, and the new role was going to be corporate chef. And I took corporate chef, come back to Sydney, and I was now corporate chef of multiple different products and brands. And that pastry background being in Tip Top with bread, the charcuterie, the butchery, meat knowledge.
It's all wrapped up.
All
together.
wrapped up. Yeah. And I just loved that I had this massive playground. George Weston was owned by Associated British Foods. So Associated British Foods had brands like Rovita and Twinings, and they were at the corporate office. So I got to also work across them, worked across brands like Puttux. And I'm learning not only as a corporate chef and being the face with customers and understanding products, but creating products and understanding. And some of my best inventions and creations.
That was literally my next question.
Yeah. Oh, okay, great. Oh, fantastic.
Talking about food innovation, like I'm sure you have done so much in this, as you mentioned. What is something that, like, a few particular recipes or products that you're really proud of?
Yeah, so interesting you say that, because George Weston was not my only corporate company. I also went to Campbell Arnott's. I went to Cerebos, which was owned by Suntory. And I've also done, major companies like Bega, Kraft Heinz. I've had such a plethora of careers that I had. Being the corporate chef of George Weston Foods and Campbell Arnott's are probably my two biggest highlights in my career, because you're developing products all the time. If I look at George Weston Foods, I was lucky enough to work on a very small team of a failed bread project, which was costing the business a lot of money. And we had essentially 2 weeks, and we worked in a small, tiny little facility, and we had 2 weeks to turn it around. And Abbott's Bakery, which is still on the shelves today, was my very first iteration into product development in that space in a big scale. And I think producing a bacon using things like orange extracts and rosemary extracts to preserve the shelf life and peroxide levels. Now I get real science nerdy here. But those two are probably my biggest products. Campbell Arnott's, working on things like Tim Tam, which is phenomenal. Got to work with some amazing leaders. But Campbell Soup, creating soup in a can that tastes fantastic after it's gone for a retort process, which is high heat, long. Using my science knowledge, using my food knowledge, you can start to see that these are
incredible
playgrounds.
Yeah, and to be a part of such a big, like, revolutionary products, it's something that stays with you.
I've launched over years and over the multiple companies, over $500 million of successful products that were launched into market. Forget about my failures. No, but there's been a lot.
No.
But what is amazing is a lot of the products I've either had time to work on are still around today. I love that because here I am being a corporate chef of Arnott's, like one of the most oldest biscuit companies in Australia, being the corporate chef for George Weston Foods. It's pretty phenomenal. And it's interesting. If I look at it, I think it was always meant to be, because my grandmother, both my grandmothers, my mum's grandmother, mother, and my father's mother, I didn't realize were both also in food. And, it's quite interesting. Both my grandparents, in all their companies, I worked in the companies that they worked in. My grandmother my dad's mum worked at Weston's Biscuits, which was owned by George Weston Foods, which they sold off to Arnott's later on. But she also worked at Pete Freen's, which was where I can't remember the name of the biscuit, but a big biscuit it'll come to me in a second. Vita Wheats. Sorry, how can I forget Vita Wheats? They were at Pete Freen's, and my grandmother worked at Arnott's as well. And here I am being the corporate chef of George Weston and Campbell Arnott's.
Yeah.
So I go to Cerebos. My grandmother, like I said, she worked at Fountain, and I become the corporate chef for Cerebos. And I walk in my very first day at Cerebos factory in Seven Hills, and there was a lady who had a photo. Oh God, I'm getting emotional. I had a photo of my grandmother on the desk, and she actually worked with my grandmother.
That's adorable.
And there were so many people. Oh wow, it still gives me tingles to see that. And I grew up in that factory too, because we'd go for the Christmas parties with my grandmother when I was younger. And here I am as a chef. And even that moment to walk into Arnott's thinking, wow, my grandmother worked here. It's meant to be whatever it was supposed to be. And, Cerebos was an amazing part of my life too, because Cerebos, I got to meet some amazing people in my life. And I talk about some of these people too, and I haven't mentioned one. One, I get to work with one of the most phenomenal chefs I've ever worked with outside of my mentoring. Julie Ballard, remarkable lady, still in this industry today, probably the hardest working chef you could ever find. Julie and I got to work together. Julie's phenomenal because she was one of the best food stylists in the country. She did lots of things like the Royal Easter Show and all this sort of stuff. And I met Julie years before that, and I had this opportunity. Would you like to come over and start writing recipes with Cerebos? And Julie got to work with me, and it's amazing because her son's Andrew Ballard, the exec chef of Unilever. So we're good friends. And now Julie's working for my best mate from school days, which I haven't mentioned here. So Julie's now working in Meat and Livestock Australia, and she works under my best mate, Sam Burke. Probably the most loyal chef I've ever come across. Sam Burke and I were at TAFE together back at cooking school, and Chef Sam was a year above me.
Okay.
And it's funny, our careers have entwined from his spotless career to me being at George Weston, and Sam and I working across barbecues together and doing amazing stuff. And Sam and I, not only our careers are entwined, but he's one of the most amazing friends. And to know that Julie went to work with him and she's still working with him, it's phenomenal. To also have another good friend in my life, Vanessa Barnes, who you guys have had on before as well.
And we're waiting for Sam.
You need Sam on here. Sam, come on here. But it's interesting, the industry is entwined together, and these people are monumental to where you are. Yes. I keep forgetting that I was doing jobs, but I was also learning and training. So I was doing food styling and food photography and doing food science and getting my diploma in understanding that and creating products. Cerebos was owned by Suntory Foods. We had coffee. So working with the coffee guys and innovating and flavor and, really interesting. I think as product developer, I'm using science knowledge and creating flavors and techniques and working with flavor companies and things that people don't think about in the food system. Here's a chef that's from Penrith, and he's essentially creating a new formulation or a new version of a biscuit someone's going to eat around the world, it's a remarkable thing to step back and go, oh, wow, what an impact. Because yes, gone are my days of the restaurant days where you're cooking for a couple of thousand people each week, to now I'm cooking for millions of people. And
so about that, you started working in a hotel. Then you moved to...
I've gone into hotels, restaurants.
Then to manufacturing units. I mean, of course, all of them are kitchens, but the purpose, the functionality is totally different. What kind of differences that you noticed, and which did you like the most?
What's amazing is this industry is the oldest career you can ever do. It's got not only a lot of history, but there's a lot of procedure. It's like the royal family. There's a lot of rigmarole about what you have to do in procedure. Cooking's the same. You get to learn a lot of things. So what's remarkable to look about this industry, food is not just one part. We look at careers today, and if you really look into it, there's so many great chefs that are working in retirement or aged care at the moment. There's childcare. There's product development in food manufacturing. There's chefs that are now food stylists and writing for magazines or cookbooks. There's so many different parts of our career that make it fascinating. Anyone that's coming into this industry right now, it's not just I've become a chef, that's it, end of my career. It's whatever you want to do. It's pick your own adventure, essentially. Like the old novels when I was a young kid, pick your own adventure, and you choose the page and you go on a different adventure. Well, that's what cooking is about. Hospitality and cooking is that I can be whatever I want. Yes, you're going to have to work hard. Yes, you work long hours. Yes, back in the day there was, and some of the subjects that I talk about later on is, mental health. Yeah, it wasn't great for mental health. But why am I still in this career? Because I love it. Yeah. That's as simple as that. I love what I do. I'm excited by getting out of bed every day. I have 6,500 cookbooks. And when we say cookbooks, they're not just cookbooks. They're signed or they're, limited editions. I've got 1,600, from the 1600s, 1700s, 1800s, 1900s, so many books. I've got assigned a Escoffier, which is the modern godfather of cooking, who virtually set up the hierarchy system, who set up, mother sauces and creating things, derivatives from mayonnaise and making things, egg-based sauces like hollandaise. And you can make béarnaise and you can make sauce mousseline. All these foundations that I learnt from that Larousse Gastronomique, learned from Auguste Escoffier. I've got signed books. There is not one part about this industry I don't love. There's so many parts. And that's why I say I do all three careers. I'm doing education, I'm doing teaching, I'm chefing every day, and I'm also in TV and doing other things in that world. What wouldn't you want to do? It's such a fascinating career. And you've had so many great people on your podcast as well. You've had Eddie Coffey, been around a long time, Paul Rivkin. These people are remarkable leaders. John McFadden, even Vanessa Barnes. These are remarkable leaders that have changed, and I've been lucky that I've grown up with these guys. We've all got different careers. We've all got different backgrounds. We talk about education. There are teachers that are chefs in education. And last week I was very lucky enough to present the award for Best Cookery Teacher. And I opened the award. I'm just opening the award now. And it was for the Tourism Training Awards. I opened the envelope, and here's my teacher, Ianthe Smith, who is still a teacher today, still a mentor in my career today. Oh, wow, I'm getting emotional. These remarkable people that have changed my life are in my day, each and every day. Yes, I'm not in mainstream kitchens each and every day, but I know what it takes. I'm lucky to be a judge in different arenas internationally and locally. I've judged competitions like Chef of the Year for, big institutions like Australian Hotels Association, work on restaurant and catering, work across every facet in this industry. There's not one part that's better than the other. We've got the most amount of retirees Australia's ever seen in its lifetime, and aged care is such an important part. I've been lucky to work across people like that as well. I've been lucky to work across, being the forerunner in working in things like plant-based or even cellular agriculture, which is, still on the forefront of what history is going to look like in the next few years. Cellular agriculture, creating meat in labs, essentially. I've been very lucky to have that career where I can do different touch points. I've gone in sales, I've been in hotel management, been in these different, and you know what? Every day, it's such a joy to be a part of that. And I think that's what any of us are in this career for. And if you're young and coming in going, hey, I want a career that challenges, I want a career that makes you a different person, then join hospitality. Doesn't matter what you're doing. And a great example of that now, we skipped one part. We were going to come to it though, but I took a different pathway only recently because I wanted a new challenge, and I've kind of gone back full circle. I've gone to a food and beverage role. I'm only 10 months in, which is remarkable in itself. And I'm working for a company called Teague. The Entertainment Education Group operates in 8 countries around the world, Australia and New Zealand. But people will be more familiar with the brands that I work with. It's Time Zone, oldest entertainment brand in Australia. Kingpin, and which is entertainment facility, and Zone Bowling, and doing food and beverage. And one of the great aspects of that, not only am I a chef, I'm working with chefs. I get to create menus, and I'm doing all the fun stuff, but I'm also doing supply chain, which I've done before. My career, I also worked at NAFTA. I've worked at, there's so many places that I've worked across that I keep forgetting about it. 32 years, there's a lot to cram in. And you go, wow, what else can I do? Where else can I go? And I'm not dead yet. You mentioned that, I got in the Hall of Fame. I thought, first of all, when I was told I was getting the FSAA, the Food Suppliers Association of Australia, said that one right first go, which was amazing. What else can I do? To get the Hall of Fame, I'm like, guys, I'm only 32 years in the game. I'm not that old. And then I got reminded that, you've been here a long time and you've made such an impact. And I think when I first got it, I was like, well, this should be happening to me. But now that I've had it and it's a year on and seeing other people and leaders in there, it's such a remarkable part of my career, and I'm not done yet. And I'm still going. But in that, we kind of missed a part of my life, which I don't talk about. And I think maybe I should talk about it because it is a big part.
Before we get to that important big part of your life, you have worked in so many different facilities, and clearly you mentioned that it's the love for the food that you have, that you just cannot treat them differently. You just love them equally. But I'm sure being a chef, it comes with a lot of challenges, which you learn from them a lot, but looking back at them, you find that hilarious that, oh my God, I was a part of this back then, but it has been a big learning lesson for you. So do you remember any such incidences through these years?
All the time.
Yeah?
All the time.
Share maybe a one, two.
There's so many in my life. I've done so many. When you reflect on life, and I'm still young. I'm still got a lot to go.
Yeah.
You make a lot of mistakes, which I can say to anyone. If you make mistakes, they're learning mistakes. Yeah. It's a learning curve. Own them. Know that you've made the mistakes. I've made a lot in my life. I've been very privileged to have the career that I have. I'm very privileged for the future of my career as well. I've made mistakes, but I haven't made regrets. And would I change my life again? No, I wouldn't. I love every moment that I've ever had. And I'm probably getting really, I am emotional at the moment because I've had so many great mentors that help inspire me along the way. And yeah, I come from tragedy when I was young, and I ran from a lot of things too. And running from things like doing charity and doing all these other things, and why did I keep so busy, and why did I work a full-time job while I was at school, and why did I go and keep studying? Because I think I've always had it in me that I've been that person. to work with the people I've had to achieve the things I have achieved, I wouldn't change one thing. And made a lot of mistakes, but I'm not disappointed by them. And if I have to say, like I said to you, and I've admitted my faults. So I was the worst salesperson in the world. I've created products which tasted terrible. I've tried things, and at least I've given it a go. And I haven't stopped what I want to do. And I still have missions in my life. There is one thing I probably would change though, and this is probably more personal. In my career, and still going forward in my career, mentoring the next generation is something I'll never change. I was lucky to have great mentors, but I've also been lucky to be a great mentor. And I don't normally say that in that sense because it's taken me a long time to even realize to be that person. I had to face a lot of demons in my life. And I didn't do it, with drugs or alcohol, but I did it by probably doing something positive, doing the charity work. Mentoring not just chefs and business owners. I've been privileged and passionate, but we talked briefly about mental health in this industry. Mental health in this industry is probably one of the toughest things I've ever seen. And going back a while in my career, I went to 8 funerals in one month. And they were all young kids, young chefs that took their own life. And I'm sorry to even bring that. And I think please put the numbers in there for people to reach out to get help. And there was one young man, and it really changed. It made me have to look at my life and go, what would I do different? But then I ask questions like, and this is the part I think I probably will need to change. Where did I go wrong? Why did they do what they did? And it's taken me a long time to understand that. And even understanding that it wasn't anything I could have done, it wouldn't have been anything I could have changed. But to see this young man that I had an amazing future, and I will mention his name. I won't mention his last name, but Brody was a remarkable young man that I met through competitions and judging and all the things that I was doing in my life. And I got to work with him, and he was just a remarkable young spirit, just beautiful soul. And when he took his life, unfortunately, it was at Christmas time, no one knew any of the problems. And unfortunately, because he relocated from another state and he was kind of living in Sydney and he was working in one of the best restaurants, and his family are all back in WA. And at the time too, there was a lot of people that were impacted. There was a lot of TAFE teachers that mentored. There was a lot of people involved in his career, and it really changed that part. And when you're mentoring someone, you only know certain parts of their life. You don't know the complete story sometimes. But with him, it was a little bit different. I had to clean out his apartment, which he lived in, and that was to send back to his mother and his family. That is a moment that you just go, I don't want this to happen again. If I could change something right now, that would be it. It would be making sure that any chef that comes in this industry is looked after. We've come a long way, but we've still got a long way to go right now. And I say that because, a lot of peers and colleagues and friends I've seen suffer in this industry, and it's not a forgiving industry. Yes, I talk about how love that I have for this place, but I don't want to see people suffer. I don't want to see them going through that. And that if I could change that, if that's the lesson I need to do, that's what I would do. It hasn't deterred me to mentor. I still mentor anyone that shows a spark of passion or love for this industry. It's quite interesting because I don't normally talk about this side of my life. And I used to do it in my charity work. I probably only mentioned it, but I haven't, been an ambassador for Cure Cancer, been an ambassador for Are You OK nationally. It's something that's personal to me. It's not I don't do it to go, oh, wow, look at me. This is what I'm doing. I do it because I want to do it and I want to make a difference. And if I'm making a difference in someone's life, if it's one person, then I'm making a great change. And that's the part that I need to keep moving forward. And that's the part that will always be personable to me. I will still be in this industry, and any person that says to me, Adam, I love this industry. How do I stay in it? Or I'm losing my passion. I'm there and I'll answer the phone. And I've been privileged to also work with a lot of people that have successfully come through and changed their career or, done some amazing things. There's a lot I do in my career that not many people know about it. My closest friends probably know that I do it because I don't talk about it every day. Sometimes you just need to make the change and just go and do it. And that's advice to anyone. That's not just chefs. That's just anyone in this industry. Go and make the change and create the legacy that you want to leave behind. What is that legacy? Now, part of my mental health too in that space, and for the audience that don't really know, I was a big boy. And probably from my trauma, I would overeat. And, my worst, I got 195 kilos. 195, not 197. And that is not good. My mental health was not good. I didn't talk about it, but my problem was overeating and enjoying food, but at the same time eating some of the wrong food and stress-free eating. To think it was nearly 200 kilos, it's quite disturbing to even think about that. And that's the journey that I've started taking now. And I had to wake up and go, Adam, you need to change your life. If you want to help others, you need to change your life. I need to be around. I'm not 50 yet. And here I am, nearly 200 kilos. And I was very lucky to do something. And I always remark this one because it was a life-changing decision. I was still doing TV at the time at my weight. And I need to change it. I need to be healthier. I need to be excited by life still. I love life. And I went to what was called the Speakers Institute. I was a great speaker beforehand and did this boot camp, and probably a more profound speaker now. And I absolutely love that because not only was the Speakers Boot Camp from the Speakers Institute, it wasn't just about my career. It changed my mentality, changed my headspace. And I went, I need to change my life and do the things. Like I said, I'm halfway through my career. I'm not finished yet. And if I need to be around, I need to lose some weight. And we took a journey, and 18 months ago, did probably the stupidest thing in my life, but also the smartest thing. And only a few people know about it, but more people are knowing about it because certain things have come from it. I went and had surgery. And I had a young mentee that I was also mentoring at the time that also was very active, and it just inspired me to go, you know what, I need to be healthier. So I took the decision to take surgery. It's a pretty drastic step. And we talked before this. Yeah. I wouldn't recommend it in 100 years because there was so many side effects afterwards, but I wouldn't change it ever because the benefits have been so rewarding. I had bariatric surgery. Bariatric surgery is where there's two types of bariatric surgery. There's a gastric bypass where you can sew your stomach up and it just goes through the intestines and bypasses your system, which is probably very common. And the other one's a gastric sleeve, which is pretty drastic and very interesting insights. Because even with doing this surgery, there was a lot at stake. I had to lose weight beforehand because I could have died on the table. There is a lot of things that they don't tell you about, and we kind of touched on it
Yeah.
when we were talking, the psychology
Of course.
of losing weight is a great thing physically, mentally, probably the worst thing you could ever do. I've said to a lot of people, if you want to know what it's like, what my journey was like, go be a fat person and decide that you're going to lose weight and see how interesting people react, your friends, your family, about you making a decision. And taking surgery is a different process because everyone has an opinion on it. Oh, you're doing the easy way.
No way is easy way.
I can tell you now, this took me 11 years to make this decision. And after doing that Speakers Institute course, I met people and I started talking to people and I made the decision to do it. And I'm glad I did. And I did it in a life when I was probably at the lowest of my career, mentally. I was going through a lot of things and I don't talk about my feelings a lot, but I decided to do this and lose the weight. It wasn't easy. I had the surgery. I had a lot of complications later on. I haven't been able to eat properly, being a chef eating pureed food. It was just disturbing. And I thought, no, I'm going to make this a positive. And we talked about it. I've lost 95 kilos since that surgery.
So was it before the surgery that you decided that, okay, when I get it done, because again, as you mentioned, that it was a huge decision that you made. It was a tough call, regardless of what opinions came your way. You still went through with it. And I'm so happy to see the kind of, as you mentioned, that we had the conversation beforehand, that it's so good to see that positive attitude despite of the drawbacks that comes with the surgery. So was it then that you decided that you wanted to co-write a book, or?
No, so interesting on that. I've always wanted to write a book ever since I was a young boy. Like I said, I have a massive collection of cookbooks that I love. I want to leave a legacy. I love books, and just to have your own book is pretty phenomenal. I talked about the Speakers Institute. I met a lot of impactful people in that meeting. Sam Cawthorne, the guy who owns the Speakers Institute, but I also met a lady called Jackie Lewis, a remarkable nutritionist that actually, funnily enough, worked in bariatric nutrition, or being healthy, which is the vitamins after surgery, which is pretty amazing. So I met Jackie then. I've always wanted to do a book. I've been writing one for a while. Before Speakers Institute, I had a book copy that about 14 years. I've been writing on and off, shelving it, all that sort of stuff. Did the Speakers Institute. It not only talked about my weight loss, I talked about my branding and what I do and what I represent, and the decision to lose the weight. But I also threw out my old manuscript of the book that I was writing, and in less than 12 weeks wrote a whole new book, by the way, which will be potentially next year coming out. That was my first book I always intended. But I met Jackie. I had the surgery. Jackie was a remarkable leader in nutrition and bariatric nutrition, and made a massive impact. Lost 74 kilos at the time. And she said, Adam, I've got this idea. We want to do a bit of a TV show about, you've doing the surgery, lost weight, and things like that. And so I helped with a program. It's a 10-part program for anyone that's gone through bariatric surgery or deciding it. You can go to BN Healthy and get this program. And it's essentially showing people how to eat and portion size and all the things I had to retrain myself as a chef, as a person, and as a general person going, hey, I've got to eat, portion sizes. You were told to eat everything on your plate. Now I've got to eat these small portions, less than 100 grams sometimes, and change all that sort of stuff. So we did a TV series, and she also said, I've been working on a book. Can you go over it? And I worked on it. I didn't think much of it. I thought she was doing this as a more an e-book or something like that. And one day after filming with Jackie, Jackie rang me and says, by the way, where do I send the book to? And I'm like, okay, well, here's the ebook. It's great. I'll put it on my shelf. I've written lots of things in my life, and I've wrote for magazines, like Food Rep, and I write for all these different things. I'm like, this is great. And I didn't think anything of it, and the book arrives, and do you want me to hold it up?
Yeah, why not?
So there we go. Jackie sent this, and I didn't know Jackie had put me as co-author on the book. So my very first book is about bariatric cooking and nutrition. Jackie wrote most of it, and to work with Jackie, she was remarkable. But we also worked with another chef, Adam Rice. So 2 Adams working on the book. This book is not the bestseller for general public. It's a cookbook about people, anyone that's deciding to go through the surgery that I went through. It's the most common surgery in Australia. There is lots of side effects. We do need to move on, but one of the proudest moments of my life is my very first book. I actually have a moment. I have it on the page. I have an ISBN number, which is important because an ISBN number is the international book number. That means it's a published book. But there I am down the bottom. It's amazing. Jackie's up the top. There's Adam Rice. My very first book is bariatric surgery. But I'm not stopped. I've got more books coming out. I've got more TV programs I'm working on. I had a great career, even working on Studio 10 for nearly 6 years, or actually being a co-host and presenting and doing all that fun stuff. I've got a book. I've now got a great job, which I absolutely love, and really busy in Teague and working all those times. And I'm mentoring people. I'm half my body weight that I was. I'm still fluctuating between. I haven't got past the 100 kilos, but I'll get down to that part. I'm still working on it. I'm still evolving. I will still love my industry every day. I'll be a chef till the day I die.
We're not done yet.
But a healthy chef. No, I know we're not done yet, but I'm going to be a healthy chef. And, everything that I'm doing now is I'm going to be here longer, guys. So that's why I'm not finished yet. There's lots more to do. But this was part of just such a long, and it was such a long, convoluted answer, but it was such an impactful time, and it made such a difference. And look, we talked weight loss. I still have this perception in my head, and when I see myself in public, I still think I'm the big guy. So I still have a bit of anxiety around that. I said to you earlier, when I was bigger, people never walked into me. They always walked away. Yeah. And you could actually see people. The psychology of losing weight afterwards is phenomenal. I would see people try and walk towards me and they avoid you at all cost. Now that I've lost weight, I have the other problem where people barge into me and I'm like, hang on, what are you doing? Going on the airplane, I was always petrified because I was that big guy and I'm like, oh, someone's going to sit next to me. I sit in the aisle seat. And I'm like, oh no, I don't want to do that. And now I can sit in the airline seat. I don't have to have the extra seatbelt. That is the biggest
thing ever.
The biggest change in my life when I realized I had lost weight was to put the seatbelt on any plane, not just Qantas. Qantas, Virgin, Jetstar, didn't matter.
You name it.
Put the seatbelt on. No extension, because it was so embarrassing to get an extension every time.
I'm sure.
Or telling your work employers, please book me, Qantas only, because I couldn't fit in the seats, or it was embarrassing in that. To pull the seatbelt even more, the tray come down normally. Someone even moved the seat back, and I'm like, I still can breathe. It's okay. I'm not claustrophobic now because I've lost the weight, but in my head I haven't. And that's the psychology. The next 3 years, 4 years, I'll be still working on myself and changing. I can wear all the fashion I like, which is amazing. I've gone from a 9XL to an XL. My goal is to be in a medium to a large. So there's still a lot more of me to lose, but I'm healthy. I don't have knee pain. I sleep better. Great example of my weight loss. I used to drink a lot of soft drink. I don't drink soft drink anymore. I used to drink 13 coffees a day. I now only drink 1 coffee a day. Such a life-changing difference. And what is amazing too, not only has my journey been great for myself, but people around me, people have bought the book, even though it's not a bestseller. People have bought the book and said, oh no, someone's going through the surgery, and I'm going, great. What's also amazing is people have been inspired by their own weight loss. And, Sam and I, we balance off each other and go, right, how much are you losing and things like that. And and I'm going to the gym and I'm enjoying life. And coming from a kid that hated sport to now, I'm doing yoga, I'm doing all the fun stuff in life, and I'm a different person to what I used to be. I'm the same person, but in a different shell.
And a different attitude towards life.
Different attitude, very confident. I did lose friends, but that's okay. It's part of the process. People just don't like you losing weight or, the different confidence. And I do have a confidence, but I also have a bit of a fear too, still. But I'm on that journey, and I'm going to keep going on that journey of losing weight.
That's so incredible. I haven't met you before that, and this is the first time we are meeting, but your energy and the passion that you're talking about, that journey, it's so infectious. It's so positive. And every person has their own battles that they're fighting with, but to have this attitude, like, no matter what, I'm going to fight through it and I'm going to get going. It's so incredible and motivating.
Thank you.
Really appreciate that.
No, it's great. Thank you.
And about the cookbook that you mentioned.
Yes.
So now that I know that you have been writing one for yourself long before that, so whatever is in this book, are you strictly following that?
In this book? So funnily enough, I actually do. So, which is amazing because it helps it helps everything I'm doing. My next book, this is the book I've always wanted to write, using all my knowledge of food, knowledge of science, knowledge of flavor. This book is teaching people how to cook, but not saying, hey, this is how you suck eggs and go, this is how you cook. Showing people how to cook with the passion and knowledge that I have. Hopefully it's bigger seller than this one.
Yeah.
But all of the recipes in that are things that I know that work. And I'm so excited by that one. That will be amazing. But that's not going to be my only book.
You're going to keep on.
I've got a few in me, and don't be surprised. I'm also looking at other genres, potentially a kid's book and self-help books, because I have gone through a massive journey. And so looking outside of my world of cooking, I don't think I'm leaving cooking now. I'm still in cooking. I'm still in food. I won't change that. But the things I want to write about now are what I want to write. And I've created that legacy. I'm still going to do more TV. I have so many different things that I want to do and achieve. And it's interesting. Before I lost the weight, I didn't have that drive of moving forward. I didn't have an idea of the future. Now that you lose the weight, and it's so horrible to think that weight makes a big difference in life. But, going from a 9XL down to an XL, what a difference. I can change my fashion.
Yeah.
And I changed my career as well, pretty much. So going from innovation, don't think I'm not going back into that space again.
We don't want you to.
I've got brands that I've had brands that I've launched my own soft drink. I've done so many fun things in my life. I've still got more to go.
Talking about more to go. And already being done a lot. How did you manage your personal life and professional life? And what kind of role your family played in it?
I think because as I mentioned before, I've run from trauma. I've now faced that trauma. I've faced it head on. I think when you really go back to it, there's so much to unpack. I'm in a different mind space than what I've ever been in my life. So I need to understand what I want in life. It's now, I think I was a bit more servitude to everyone. I felt like I had to please everyone. I don't have to do that anymore. I'm still going to do my charity work. That will never stop. And I do it because I want to help. But that idea of not having to, I think I ran from mistakes. I hid from a lot of things, and I didn't tell people publicly. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm here to speak what I'm feeling. I'm not going to change that. There's parts of life that you just go, I'm going to do this again. And if I had to do it again all over, I'll do it exactly the same way I did it. but I probably would have lost the weight earlier.
Yeah.
And look, there's so much I can do, and there's so much I can help. I think now that I'm healthy, I'm going to remain healthier, it makes you look at life differently. I look at the sunset and
100%.
sunrises very differently. I know that sounds very corny,
No, not at all.
but I stop and take a breath.
Yeah.
I now catch public transport to my office and I go across the best city in the world and look at the Sydney Harbour every time and the Harbour Bridge. And I just go, wow, what a great industry. What a great life. What a great city we live in. What a great country I live in. I'm very lucky where I am. I say lucky, but I've worked hard to get there. And I run from things, but I'm doing the right things and I'm set my pathway right. Yeah. If people don't like that, that's their problem, not mine. I'm sorry. I sound very different to where I started in my life, but
the confidence speaks a lot.
The confidence has I always had a confidence, but when I was the big guy, I could hide behind things. Now that I've lost a lot of weight, the confidence is different. I'm mentally strong. I've got nothing to hide. I can't hide anywhere because I've lost the weight. So, you've got no excuse to try and do it. So I don't know. I've got to find, I'm doing things for myself. I'm doing the legacy. I had support from friends, family. The ones that are still in my life today have really supported me. And that's what we're here. And, you've got a lot of chefs that you've had on this podcast and you're going to have on this podcast that I've worked across or worked for, and they're still part of my life. It's phenomenal. Be humble, love what you do, and respect everyone that's in your life. That's probably that's the answer.
Yeah. To change the mood a little bit.
Yes.
I have a series of fun, light-headed questions for you.
Okay.
And I want you to be totally honest with me.
Okay.
Yeah. So, starting with, is there any particular ingredient or one ingredient that you think is really underappreciated?
100%. I mentioned earlier that I was lucky enough to work with Indigenous culture. I'm a third-generation Irishman, born here, but my whole family heritage is pretty much Irish, German, that sort of thing. And I think here in Australia, we underappreciate it and we don't respect it, but we need to. The Indigenous culture in Australia is one of the oldest cultures in the world. We've got proof that bakery originally started here in Australia 20,000 years before Egypt discovered bakery. Indigenous ingredients are native to this country. Some of the world's superfoods, we talk about things like blueberries and acai berries and all those sort of things. But interesting, we don't talk about Indigenous food, where some of the biggest insights and, interesting, lemon myrtle, for example, it's just one example of Indigenous food. But lemon myrtle, you can rub the leaf on your hand, extract the oleander resins that give you the best antimicrobial protection, better than any hand sanitizer in the world, better than any soap. But at the same time, I can use it in tea. I can use it in beverages. I can use it in savory, sweet, all those sort of aspects. So I think we need to not only respect and use more Indigenous ingredients, we also need to respect the story time that the Indigenous people, the culture, and understand that it's a unique part of who we are. No matter what, where you come from in the world, we live on this land. It's a phenomenal part of who we. If you've settled here, if you lived here all your life, or whatever you want to do, let's respect the Indigenous culture. Let's respect the history. Let's be proud of it. And let's not hide it anymore. Indigenous ingredients, and I've been luckily in my career to the National Indigenous Culinary Institute. That's a mouthful in itself. Nathan Lovett, amazing, remarkable man, teaching young chefs about the Indigenous culture and being proud. I've also been very lucky to go around the world and go into Nepal and teach Nepalese chefs to be proud of your culture. Don't leave the country and don't come back. A lot of Australian chefs, they leave, they go across the world and they come back and they bring that culture and builds that culture better and bigger in Australia. We're lucky that we have this country here in Australia. Let's use the Indigenous ingredient more often.
Yeah.
This is not a political stance. It's just something I'm very passionate about. And there's so many wonderful flavors, outside lemon myrtle, you've got your wattle seeds, your kakadu plums, the highest vitamin C content of anything in the world is from a kakadu plum. Finger limes, remarkable ingredients that can be used each and every day. A pepperberry from Tasmania has such an intensity, more intense than a lot of chilies and things like that. It's just remarkable. Let's use more Indigenous ingredients.
If you were to host a dinner party
Yes.
for any 3 people, past or present, who would they be and what would you cook?
Wow. Interesting. Look, I would probably say it would have to be chefs that I would invite. One, because I love food, and 2, I think you still learn every day.
You can't be safe. You have to name those.
No,
3
I'm going
people.
to name them. Don't worry,
Yeah.
I'm going to name them. It's just building it up. I would love to meet Auguste Escoffier. My foundations, my careers, modern grandfather of cuisine. I would love to meet him. I would love just to understand the philosophy of what he did and why he did it. And I think it would be remarkable just to meet someone like that. This person I've met and I absolutely adore. And it's a bit of a, people go, oh, why'd you choose him? I just think he's phenomenal. And that's Gordon Ramsay. He's not my hero, but I just love Gordon's passion. A lot of people go, oh, why Gordon Ramsay? And I've been lucky to meet him numerous times and across the world and also do stuff, in cohesion with him. And what I love about someone like Gordon Ramsay is not only is he passionate, but he's just one of the most insightful people that you come across. And when you meet him and you get to know, forget the TV persona, it's just a remarkable man. And I think he would bring a lot of fun to it. And I think he would also pick Auguste Escoffier's brain and things like that as well. I just think it's phenomenal in that space. And the other one I did meet too, and unfortunately not here anymore. This was a hero, and when I did meet him, he was very much the person I wanted to be in my life, and I still respect him today. And I've massive nerd when it comes to his books and his comic books and all these fun things. And a lot of people wouldn't know that he had comic books. Was Anthony Bourdain. Such a huge influence on my life, especially as a young chef. This was really hard because I could have chosen so many different people, but Anthony Bourdain also, what I would love is between him and Gordon, they were friends. They would have banter, and Auguste Escoffier there. I think the conversation would be very great.
Yeah.
I would love to have more people at the table, but and I would have probably Sam and Vanessa in there just to liven it up a bit more and bring it back down to earth. But Anthony Bourdain and his mental health struggle too would be amazing just to see him again. I've got a beautiful wooden spoon signed by Anthony Bourdain.
Okay.
I've got a lot of books signed by him, but he did comic books, which were phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I would suggest anyone who haven't got the comic books, they're very hard to get. Anthony Bourdain's comic books, as well as his books, were phenomenal, but the comic books were just remarkable.
And what would you cook for them?
What would I cook for them? That's hard. The hardest dish I've ever had to cook in my life, and it's one of the most passionate things I love, and I did on my very first TV appearance on Studio 10 with Ida Buttrose, which was a remarkable thing in my life too, to cook with a legend like Ida Buttrose and cook at the same time. I did pork crackling, the best pork ever and best pork crackling. I tell you what, first of all, doing that on TV in a short segment and making sure it's perfect each and every time, it's one of the hardest ingredients. It's also the ingredient that can go so wrong in so many ways. but I know I've got a good recipe, and I'm being very cocky here. It's a great recipe that will never fail. And I think all three of them would enjoy it. And it would be something like that. And I would use some native Indigenous ingredients to serve up as well. So there you go.
And
long answer.
That's all right. And lastly, what is that one dish that you can eat every single day?
Oh, okay.
Just one.
This has changed a lot.
Yeah.
So before having surgery and not being able to eat, meat was definitely one of my favorite things, like steak, and just the Maillard reaction on the steak. It's beautiful. I probably don't eat as much meat as I used to. So I've probably gone a little bit more sweeter in things. I really randomly love custard, and
I love custard.
It's easy to go down. It's great. But that's something I could eat no problems. And I think if it wasn't sweet, it would be a savory. It would be like something like roasted corn. I could eat that all day. So yeah, they're the things I would look at.
We used to get this roasted corn on charcoal back in India, on that chunks, and they used to put squeeze some lemon, some chili powder, and salt on it.
Oh, fantastic!
And with the rains and that corn, oh my god, just the perfect combination. This reminded me of that.
Yeah. No, it's remarkable.
Yeah.
I any corn, great. Like I said, I still love meat, but it's just a different eat for me now, and I couldn't eat a whole lot. I love custard. Just it's custard, and I've been lucky to work on companies that actually had custard in their portfolio. But I think corn, it's just a great vegetable. You can put parmesan and
anything on
it. It's remarkable.
Yeah.
Just go for that.
Yeah. And to end our conversation with too, what is that one piece of advice that you would give to the aspiring chefs or anyone who has just started in this industry?
It's a great question, and I think I've touched on it briefly, but I think
just sum it up. Yeah.
To sum it up, if you're coming in this industry, like I said, it's the greatest industry you'll ever work. It's one of the best things you'll ever do. Use it as a chance to explore. Ask questions. Find a mentor. Find someone that's just as passionate or someone that's got skill sets that you don't have or you aspire to have, and talk to them. Ask questions. Don't be afraid of asking questions. One of the other things is network as much as you can, because you never know where they lead, where those contacts go. And networking is introducing yourself and saying, hi, this is who I aspire to be. Also walking away going, oh, wow, I should have asked him that. Go and ask him that question. I've been lucky enough to meet my heroes in my life and don't regret asking them the questions that I've asked. So ask questions. Be respectful and also be curious. Find an ingredient. If you don't know about Indigenous ingredients, taste it, understand it, try everything once, and have that mentality in life. You will go so far, because sometimes passion will take you to so many different places, and I'm testimony of that. My whole career is full of passion and curiosity and asking questions, and I wouldn't be this person I am today if I didn't do that. So if you were to do that, that's what I can say to you right now.
That's incredible. I mean, your journey is a true definition of the name of this podcast series, that is Passion to Profession. And walking with you through it, I mean, I literally had goosebumps at times.
Oh, thank you.
It was a great conversation, Aaron.
Thank you.
I can't just stop emphasizing on it. It was incredible, and we're actually so proud of you to openly talk about the issues that you talked about and be confident and share that positive vibes towards it.
Yeah.
It is really necessary, I think, in the challenging world that we are all living in.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the time and this great podcast. Educating chefs on chefs is a remarkable thing, and keep doing this. Thank you so much for the interviews you've done before, and thank you for sharing my story as well.
Yeah, I mean, chefs have the most incredible stories. That's what I've learned, especially in these past couple of weeks that I have been interviewing and having conversations off the mic as well. That you guys have so much to tell. And because we love the food that you make.
Oh, thank you.
but you have so much to tell and we have so much to learn from you. So
Thank
it
you so
was a
much.
pleasure having you here.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching the episode and sticking to us through this journey of the chefs that we have been interviewing through the Chef's Edition. We hope you loved this episode, and if you did, don't forget to leave a like, comment, and share. And of course, if you have any questions, feel free to drop a comment, and Chef Adam would be more than happy to answer it. Thank you so much for watching.